The Switch 2 is missing some features that people really don't talk about a lot. So when it comes to the Switch 2, a lot of the comparisons come down to power. Like, obviously, the Switch 2 is less powerful than the Xbox Series X and the PS5. It's a fraction of the size, it's a portable console. And that's not what I want to talk about, because the Switch 2 is trying to do something different. It's not trying to compete with those in terms of raw power. But there are a few things I would have liked the Switch 2 to have, or maybe even add somewhere down the line. And the first one I want to talk about is adaptive triggers and analog triggers. So this is something not everyone likes, it's personal preference. But adaptive triggers mean that the triggers will have feedback depending on what's happening in game. If you've ever played Astrobot, that's a perfect example of how it can be used, and I think it's something that's really immersive. I really like how it was used in that game. And analog triggers are triggers where you push down, and it's not like you're just pressing a button. Like, if you push down more, like for example in a racing game, you'll go faster. If you push down less, you'll go slower. And as someone who plays a lot of Rocket League, I find Rocket League on the Switch 2 to be almost unplayable because it just doesn't feel good to hold the digital triggers on the Switch 2 for that long. Now, this is something that is personal because a lot of people actually do prefer digital triggers, and Nintendo themselves hasn't had analog triggers since the GameCube. But I don't know, personally I just find it to be a lot more comfortable. I find there to be like good uses out of it, and I don't even think the Switch 2 would support something like this, so it's not going to happen, but it is just something I don't see discussed much. The next is actual play logs. So there kind of is play logs. Like, if you go to your account or someone else's account, it'll say like their recent games, how many hours, like roughly. And you can even go on the Nintendo Switch Store app, which for some reason like you can't see this on the actual console, but it'll give you more information about when you played a game, but it doesn't really, like, it's not that clean to use, if that makes sense. Like, if you go to the 3DS and the Wii U, it's just a lot better on there. Now, it's not something that's completely necessary, and we do have something like it on the Switch Store app, like I mentioned, but I would like to have just more detailed play logs, because it's something that I like to look back on, like on my Wii U, my 3DS, even my Wii, like see what I was playing on certain days, see how many hours I played it. And it's not something that's important, but it's such a minimal feature, and it would just give you more information to look at. The next one is more apps besides just the basic settings, eShop, and games themselves. Like the Wii, 3DS, Wii U, they all had a bunch of different things. There was Miiverse, there was Face Raiders, like there was the AR cards, there was the voice memo thing on the 3DS. The Wii U had things like the TV, like with two eyes, whatever it was called. There was the play log, like I mentioned. And then the Wii, of course, there was Mii Plaza, there was the voting channel. And most of these are things that were not that important, but they just kind of added personality to the console. Like, just gave you something to do, like, even for a little bit, just made it more interesting. And really, since the Switch, they've kind of gotten rid of this. It just feels a lot more corporate and minimalist, which is something that has pretty much taken over the whole world. Like look at fast food restaurants in like the 2000s and compare them to now. Like, everything just has that corporate minimalist look, and it may look clean, but it's just missing so much personality. And the Switch home screen, the Switch 2 home screen is just boring. Like, there's no music playing, no customization. Like, you can't have badges, you can't have themes. You simply just go left to right and select what game you want to play. And of course it works, like, it's perfectly fine. But I feel like for a lot of us who grew up in older eras, it is something that we miss, especially badges. Like, imagine if they brought that back, or imagine if they brought back themes. Like, that's just basically free money for Nintendo. I don't think we're ever going to get it back, though, at this point, because Nintendo has been marketing a lot more towards adults. Like, they're not, like, the consoles aren't trying to, like, have this more, like, friendlier, like, it feels like the Switch and Switch 2 aren't trying to have this friendlier stuff, like the Face Raiders or AR card modes, which were just, like, kind of, like, fun modes for kids for the most part, and for people to play like one or two times, but it is still something I miss. So the next is achievements. So this one is talked about pretty constantly. Xbox and PlayStation have had achievements for 20 years now, if not longer, and Nintendo still doesn't have that, and it kind of sucks because it gives you something to do. It gives completionists more things to do. It's interesting to see like when you get an achievement that not a lot of people have, it's cool to see that it's something rare. It can be fun to try in 100% of games achievements, and there's no reason why the Switch 2 can't have this. There's literally zero reason why this can't be integrated, but still we don't have it, especially in multiplayer games. Like, a lot of multiplayer games, getting achievements is pretty big. Like I believe for Fall Guys I got the Platinum Trophy, and it can encourage you to play a game more. Like, like the last one for that was to get 5 wins in a row, and it took a lot of time, but it was fun to try and grind out that trophy. And it also adds a lot of replay value, and since the Switch and Switch 2 doesn't have that, it sometimes makes me want to play games on my PlayStation instead that I maybe would have considered playing on the Switch 2. Because there's some games I'm really on the fence about. Do I want the portability? Do I want the graphics and performance? Like, it is a real debate sometimes, like for certain games. But sometimes just having like extra achievements, like that can push me towards PS5 for a certain game. And there's no reason why the Switch 2 can't have this. I just don't get it. Now, next up is better online features. And this is a common one people talk about, but I still have to bring it up. Like, why do we still have friend codes in 2026? And why did we get rid of friend codes in 2012 with the Wii U, and then went back to it with the Switch and Switch 2? Like, I don't get it. It's not really much you could do. Like you can see your friends' recent games, but that's pretty much it. Like, you can't go to like a whole friendship profile and see like their mutual friends, see like gameplay clips they've recorded or anything like that. Like, you can't share your clips. And we literally finally got like actual voice chat last year with the Switch 2. So Nintendo is just super behind in online. And again, it makes no sense. I understand the reasoning is that like they are trying to be more kid friendly. Like, they don't want kids like messaging adults on their system. And I get that, but they can't just make like parental restrictions on it. Like, they can't do any of that. Like, they can't have, like, you can't message your friends on Switch. Can't really see much on their profile. And it just takes away a lot of that social aspect. Like, there's a lot of people I met like playing PS4 over the years who I would talk to for years. Like, I'd play a lot of games with them. I'd set up parties on PS4 to talk and play games. And it was a lot of fun, like getting to meet new people that way. And it's not really going to happen on Switch. I've never once had that happen on Switch or Switch 2 because it's not really built for that. Like, you can't message people and say like what time you're going to be on. Like, all you could do is if you find someone online, then you add them, then you somehow just add them to like a Switch 2 call, and they join, and then get like their Discord or something. But that's just, people don't want to go through those steps, and the Switch 2 is just really missing on that social feature. Because personally for me, like, that's something I would love to have, because most of my friends do not have Switch 2s. Most of my friends are on Xbox, PC, or PlayStation. So I don't really get a chance to play a lot of Switch 2 games or Switch games with my friends because of that. So if the Switch 2 had more social features like that, then maybe I could potentially just meet some people to play games with online. And I know there's communities and stuff. I know there's Discord communities, but I don't care that much. Like, it's not the biggest deal to me, but it would be just a nice feature to have. Next up, and this is a big one, extra storage. So it's easy enough to just insert a micro SD. It's not like with other consoles where I think you actually have to open up the console itself. But 256 gigabytes is just like, it's nothing now. Like, that's literally less than 3 AAA games at this point. Like, I rarely buy digital games. I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, and of course that's a game key card, so it's basically digital. And that's 90 gigabytes right there. Plus there's the data for the games I already have. There's not actually 256 gigs of storage, because there's the operating system and everything. And I don't really have any space left. Like, I have like a few smaller games downloaded, and you could really only have like sometimes 2 big AAA games on your Switch 2 before needing to get storage. And it's not cheap. Like, for another 256 gigabytes, on sale was $40. Usually it's, I believe, $60. And like a terabyte costs like $200 or something like that. It's not cheap. So I know people might say, well, if it had more storage, it would be more expensive. And yeah, that probably is true. But it does really suck that there's just so little storage when you pretty much need it, especially with so many game key cards now. Like with the Switch having 32 gigabytes of storage, I actually never needed a micro SD for it, because I just did not get enough digital-only games. Like, I played almost exclusively physical games, and if I got digital games, they were typically smaller, like a couple of gigabytes at most. But with the Switch 2, with there being so many game key cards and games just being bigger nowadays, like, you are pretty much gonna need a micro SD if you play on it regularly. Next up is something I want to just touch on quickly. Discord integration. Like, yeah, there's the voice chat, but that limits you to only talking to people on the Switch. If you want to play a multiplayer game with people on other platforms, you either have to use the game chat. Like you can't easily use Discord on it. You would have to have like 2 headsets in, or have like another way to talk on Discord that way. And I don't think Nintendo would ever do that, because Nintendo doesn't really like to have these types of integrations, but it would be a nice feature. And then finally, streaming apps. So I think there's Hulu, but I don't know what else there is. And it doesn't really make sense to me. Like, I know it's not trying to be like a multimedia device like a PlayStation or an Xbox, but like the Wii U, and 3DS all had Netflix. Like, they all had different streaming services, and it doesn't really make sense why the Switch doesn't have it. It's like they're against it. Because I actually would probably use the streaming on it, because let's say if I just want to watch like Netflix or Paramount Plus or whatever, and I don't feel like watching it on TV, like if I just want to like watch, if I was going to watch it on my phone, I'd rather watch it on my Switch at that point, just because it's the bigger screen. So it's not something I would use every day. It's not like a deal breaker or anything. But like with all of the things in this video, it's just some things that are not necessary. Like, I still love the Switch 2. I think it is a great system, but these are some things I feel like could be added just to make it better. Like, none of these things are that major to me. Like, would I like to have analog triggers? Yes. Would I like to have better online features? Yes. But also, I have a PS5, I have a gaming laptop, So it does give me freedom to do more with my games. Like if there's something that I want that the Switch 2 doesn't have, then I just go to my PlayStation. Like for example, with achievements or something that I'd like in a game, when I'm on the fence about like what I want to get it on, I'll just get it on my PS5 at that point. And also I do have a PlayStation Portal, so that's also actually made my decision easier for a lot of games, because a lot of times I just don't want to play a game on TV. Like I want to just like lay in bed and play a game, and with the Portal it runs perfectly fine for me. It streams really well, and that allows me to play more PlayStation games, not on the go but off the TV. So a lot of these are not that big of a deal to me, but also on the Portal you actually cannot stream like streaming services, it just won't let you do that. So I did just want to mention that as well. But anyway, what are some things that you feel should be added to the Switch 2 or you feel that are missing from the Switch 2? Doesn't need to be anything major. Like I said in this video, none of these are things that absolutely need to be there, but are some things that I feel would make the Switch 2 a little better. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe and check out my other content, and I'll see you next time.